the best way to predict the future is to go build it. The reason why I like to be in Web3 and blockchain is because the smartest people in the world are in this space and working on building cool things. The technology is eventually going to disrupt existing industries that we know, and they're going to solve problems around us.
You told me the other night, you said, look, I'm not a trader, I'm an investor. Tell me what that means, and tell me the way that you engage in the market.
Trading is one of the easiest way to get rent. I invest in a business early on, and that business creates value, and that creates wealth. In trading, it's player versus player. You're taking money from somebody else, so there's no wealth being created.
The bull market is back. You've seen a few cycles. You're pretty much OG in this space. What do you think is hot? What's happening?
Bitcoin's adoption is growing. There's more and more people understanding why we need Bitcoin. It takes away that central power where some individuals decide how the power is distributed and gives it back to the people.
When that headline goes around the world that it's an all-time high in Bitcoin, where people are going to be like, oh, that's that crypto stuff everyone's been talking about. Now it's back.
You can't stop technical progress. It will eventually come. The better solution will eventually win. And Bitcoin is just a better form of money. My mother doesn't understand technology that well at all, but she's always had these basic qualities about living life. Is like always think long term, always think about how you can add value for others, always give more than you take. My mother's a saint. Like her full-time job is to pray.
Final thoughts for anybody listening out there.
I like to leave people with Evan, E-V-A-N. E for enthusiasm. You gotta be enthusiastic about what you do. Vision. The bigger you dream, the better it is. A is always ask. Ask for things you want, because if you don't ask, you don't get. And then N is nimble, moving fast and delivering results, because you know that you're building something that's gonna add value to the world. For me, freedom is my number one priority in life. And I value that above most things in life. And if I can gift that to somebody else, I think that would truly be legendary.
The world is changing. Inspiration is everywhere. It has never been so easy to connect, share, and bring people together. We're learning from others and finding the best in ourselves. Challenging our beliefs. Sharing our vulnerability. Overcoming our fears. Transforming ourselves so we can transform the world. How far can we go?
This is London Real. I am Brian Rose. My guest today is... This is London Real. I am Brian Rose. My guest today is Evan Luthra, the serial entrepreneur, blockchain expert, investor, and motivational speaker. Your journey began at age 12 when you began writing a technology blog and then developed an app that helped you reach millions of readers. You sold your first business for $1.7 million at 17 years old and made the Forbes 30 under 30 list at the age of 27. You first discovered Bitcoin back in 2014, and from there began investing heavily in the blockchain space. Today, you've built and invested in over 400 companies with a combined market cap in excess of $100 billion. You are a member of the Forbes Technology Council and regularly contribute to Forbes Magazine, Entrepreneur, and Cointelegraph. Ultimately, you believe that Web3 has the power to transform the lives of millions of people around the world, and that Bitcoin represents the biggest wealth transfer in generations. Evan, welcome to London Real.
Thank you, Brian. Pleasure to be here today.
It's great to have you here. You know what? I think we jump right into it because the bull market is back. And I want to just jump into your brain and find out, what is Evan thinking about what the next 12 to 18 months holds for us? What do you think is hot? What's happening? And I think what everyone wants to know is, what are you investing in? You've seen a few cycles. You're pretty much OG in this space. So what do you see coming up?
I mean, for me, it's very, very exciting to see what's happening in the crypto markets right now. We all knew this was going to happen, right? All these last cycles that we've got. This is my third bull cycle, as you would say, that I'm properly involved in. And what was happening is basically Bitcoin's adoption is growing. There's more and more people understanding what's happening with Bitcoin, why we need Bitcoin, and why we need to take power away from the governments and from the banks. And I think that's what's really happening. What happened during the last cycle was, at first the big banks used to say Bitcoin is a fraud, Bitcoin is a scam. they realize they can't stop. Most people eventually realize that you can only delay technical progress. You can't stop technical progress. It will eventually come. The better solution will eventually win. And Bitcoin is just a better form of money, right? And that's why I think it's able to get all these adoption. And now with ETFs, we're seeing over 10 times more demand for Bitcoin every day than Bitcoin is actually created. There's more than 10x the demand for Bitcoin every single day just from the ETFs than Bitcoin actually being created. And that's been the graph ever since the ETFs have gone live. And it's been a really, really exciting time. I mean, to most people, I actually tell them, you need to understand, if you want to understand Bitcoin, you really have to ask, why do you need banks? Why do you need governments? And to really understand that, you have to go back a few centuries in time, and you have to understand you need banks and governments to enable trade in different parts of the world. Somebody from the UK wants to do some business with somebody from India. That's what banks and governments enable. That enable this trade to take place in a manner that was trusted between both parties. But what's happened over this many years is that these banks and governments have become quite corrupt. So now they serve their own friends. They don't really serve the public anymore. They're not a public servant as they're supposed to be. And I think that's what Bitcoin is truly solving, right? Today, if I want to get a loan, I can walk into any bank and get a loan in a minute. But my chef, my driver who actually needs the loan, which will have a lot more impact for them than to me, they can't get a loan. They can't get that because they don't know the bank manager, right? I mean, and that's what's problem in politics and government and banking today. And I think that's what Bitcoin solves. It takes away that central power where there's some individuals decide how the power is distributed and gives it back to the people. With Bitcoin, you're decentralizing governance, you're decentralizing power. I think that's really, really exciting. And what happens every cycle is that we see adoption coming in, right? Bitcoin works in cycles because of the way it's been designed. There's this halving that happens every 4 years that cuts the supply of Bitcoin for the same amount of effort that goes in by half. And as we reach every halving, it attracts a lot of people to the Bitcoin ecosystem, and we see the growth coming in. I think that's what is really happening now, that the adoption is really reaching that tipping point. I think this may be the biggest super cycle in a way, where Bitcoin reaches everybody, or at least a big part of the world. We're already seeing massive amounts of people in places like Venezuela, Turkey, the Eastern Europe, where there's either war or instability, political instability, or there's high amounts of inflation. Already, 50% of people almost using cryptocurrencies all the time. I talk to these people all the time, people from Argentina or Turkey, or even Malaysia. I was talking to a friend just a couple of days ago. The Malaysian ringgit has fallen 50% against the US dollar in the last many years. So people are losing their purchasing power. America keeps on printing more and more US dollars, which is backed by nothing but the trust in their army. And then they keep exporting that inflation because the world still runs on the US dollar, right? So they create that inflation and they export that inflation to other countries. And these countries are suffering. These countries are suffering in a really big way. And I think Bitcoin takes away that power from these institutions and gives it back to the people. One Bitcoin is always one Bitcoin. And what you can get with that one Bitcoin is going up over history, and it's not going down compared to what you get when you have fiat currencies. Over time, there's not a single fiat currency that has actually survived, right? Not one single fiat currency has actually survived. We don't know if Bitcoin will survive. Technology, one thing I tend to tell people is they underestimate technology. Technology grows really, really fast. It grows exponentially. So we may have a better form of money. But as of today, we don't have anything better than Bitcoin, right? And I think it's the smartest form of money out there, the best way to store value. It's easy to transport. It's secure. Nobody can take it from you. And I think that's the best way to look at it.
Is this more of getting people's attention to a certain extent? Because it feels like every cycle, more and more people hear about Bitcoin. And then they always have to learn about it because sometimes it's complicated to own. The ETF changes that. But once they get it, I guess they call it orange pilling someone. A lot of people then go into it. But again, it's hard to get people's attention. Now we're close to the all-time high. I was telling my students yesterday, when that headline goes around the world that it's an all-time high in Bitcoin, that is a huge pattern interrupt, right?
Yeah.
Marsh McLuhan talked about that, a pattern interrupt, where people are going to be like, oh, that's that crypto stuff everyone's been talking about. Now it's back.
Yeah.
And that would get a lot of people's attention. And you're saying that might be the final push.
Exactly.
Where everyone knows about it.
Because like you said, because it's easier to access Bitcoin now, and also technology is growing, right? So we didn't have the infrastructure for a long time in the Web3 space for people to actually be onboarded. You can't expect my mother to go and download a MetaMask, create a wallet, save a private key, preserve that in a safe way. You can't expect a lot of people to do that. So we are now seeing these tools that have come in where now you have phones that are basically crypto phones. So crypto is becoming so much part of life for a lot of people that it becomes very easy. And I think that's what technology is doing. And the infrastructure, as we say, is being built and is at a place where a lot more people can be onboarded. And those who actually have interest can be onboarded at this point with the infrastructure that's available today. And GameFi, for example, which is the biggest narrative, I'm an investor in over 150 Web3 games, and has been one of the most exciting ways to onboard people. Because if you look at what happened with gaming, right, the ecosystem was always locked, right? You would have these big game publishers publish a game, players would spend hours and hours playing, earning these skins, which they pay the publisher for, and then they leave the game and the skins are there. They can't do anything with it. But with the weapons are there, whatever they earn in the game, the in-game assets. But now with NFTs and Web3, these assets become tradable. But an individual is still playing the game because he wants to enjoy the game like he would play any other way. But now what the time he spends into the game, he can earn these assets and he can sell them at the end of the game. And that creates an economy, that creates a financial incentive around that. When you do that, it opens up a lot more adoption, right? And I think that's just one of the examples of how like GameFi is bringing big adoption to crypto and Web3. I like to say like the children who are going to be born now, who are going to be playing iPad games, already for the last many years, children who are born with iPads in their hand. They play iPads all day. That's how parents keep the kids entertained these days. But the people who are going to be born now, who are going to play these next games, are going to be Web3 games. They're not just playing games, they're actually making money. Or they're actually earning in-game assets. They're learning about finance from a very young age. They're learning about Bitcoin from a very young age. Because eventually you earn that game token, you say this is interesting, and then you look at you get more interested. You look more into it. I think that's what is going to happen at a very big pace. And that's just one of the industries. There's adoption happening in every other industry, as we know. There's a lot of point systems like the world runs on. That's all been coming to Web3. I was just talking to the head of Air Baltic, one of the airlines. So I travel a lot. I've been crazy about collecting miles and optimizing my travel. And then this guy is just, and I have all these miles which I expire now because I'm at a point now where I don't spend so much time optimizing that I used to when I was younger. So I don't use so many of those points and they expire, right? But now Air Baltic is working on a system where you can actually sell those points. Like you can NFT them and you make an whole economy around that. So that's like value that I can, like that was sitting there but I couldn't use. Now I can extract that value using Web3. So I think there's a lot of adoption happening and there are a lot of companies coming in. And this happened even before. So it's not like it didn't happen before. Microsoft was like selling stuff. Tesla was selling with Bitcoin, even the last bull market. What happened was the infrastructure was not able to support it. The transaction fees were too high. The storage, those infrastructure was not there. But that's what people are doing every day. The reason why I like to be in Web3 and blockchain is because the smartest people in the world are in this space and working on building cool things. I don't work for money anymore. I like to work because I enjoy doing it. That's the only type of work I do, right? And in Web3, you get to work with the smartest people in this industry. That's really exciting. And you can never discount the hard work of smart people. So eventually you see this adoption happening where now the infrastructure layer, the foundation is strong and people can actually build tools, people can actually build Web3 solutions, and they can actually tokenize the economy or the company or the industry and have massive growth. And now we are, for example, security tokens. I was actually early into one of the first security token offerings, High.Tech, back in 2018. This company did really, really well. They raised a lot of money, but it was a security token. Even till today, there's not really that many places where we can trade a security token. But now this year, a big narrative is real world assets. Tokenizing real world assets, which basically is security, right? You're buying a property and you take tokenizing that and then you sell it and you bring all this liquidity on chain. So that's like real estate is a multi-trillion dollar asset. And when that comes on chain on crypto, there's huge amounts of growth that's going to be coming into the space. And that's just one of the examples. But the infrastructure didn't exist. People had ideas to tokenize property in the last bull cycle also, but there was no infrastructure. You couldn't do it. Yeah. Now you actually have the infrastructure, and that's why I think this is one of the super cycles where we're going to see massive growth. And I think crypto has been the largest wealth transfer in generations, as we all know. But I think this is the time that we're still very early. We're still not close to the all-time high. We're still not broken the all-time high. So people watching this, I think they have the opportunity that they're still very early and they can still get in and still, I like to even tell people, when you get into crypto, don't come in with the mindset I have this $1,000, I have this $10,000. How do I make that into 100, or how do I make that into $1 million? That's the wrong mindset, right? Forget what you have. Think out of the box and say, I'm this individual. I want to understand what Bitcoin is. I want to understand Web3 is. I want to understand what tokenization is. I want to understand how it works and how can I add value. I'm passionate about fashion, or I'm passionate about hospitality. How can I use Web3 disrupt this industry? And you will find people with similar ideas or similar passions already working on cool products. Join the Telegram community, share ideas, become a community moderator. Start adding value, and you will win for sure. Like one of the quicker, easiest ways to win in this industry is just chase airdrops. Like I like to say, if you're able to spend 20 hours a week this year chasing airdrops, completing challenges, you will probably make anywhere from $200 to $2 million in free money just by investing time. Maybe you have to invest $500 in gas fees over the whole year.
For people that don't know what that means, what does that mean, chasing airdrops, and what does someone have to do
Chasing
to get
airdrops
those?
is all these new companies building protocols or building solutions. They want people to know about that. And they have these tokens, which investors like myself pay. They normally sell 20% of those tokens for let's say 2 million, just to give you high level numbers. And they keep the other 20% to distribute to the community, right? And let's say they distribute $2 million worth of tokens to the early adopters who use their product.
Right.
And
So
then
if you're on the website, they're going to give you credit for being there.
They're going to give you credit for being early, for using the product and telling your friends about it.
Right.
And if there's hundreds of such products coming, right? And if you spend time, an hour chasing, you spend 20 hours, or you chase 20 airdrops a week, you end the year with 1,000 airdrops. Each of those airdrops, I've had airdrops which have reached 6 figures in volume, but I was obviously early. But that's the key. You can also be early. All you should do is just be curious and understand and spend some time and understand. That's why I said find what you're passionate about and join one of those Telegram communities and because technology is Bitcoin and blockchain is just a distributed ledger technology. The technology is eventually going to disrupt existing industries that we know, and they're going to solve problems around us, right? So if you can be in one of those protocols or projects that are solving a problem that you care about, and if you're an early adopter and you're an early proponent, you will get that airdrop. And that airdrop will be worth a lot of money. And I mean, this is what a lot of people do right now, and this changes lives of thousands of people that I know that have changed lives just by chasing airdrops.
Yeah.
And this is normally a better strategy than trying to come in with $10,000 and saying, how can I make my 10,000 into $1 million? I would rather recommend give your time instead and decide how can I add value to this space. Crypto, I love working with crypto because even before crypto, I have my own company. I have 200 engineers who work full time for me. The company's still there. I'm not that deeply involved because I like to work in crypto. And crypto is amazing because here, the more value you create, the more you get. It's purely a value-centric economy. If you're able to create value in Web3, you get paid for that.
You'll get paid sooner or later.
You will get paid sooner or later.
It's like karma.
It's like karma. It's like this industry I love that about it. It's purely about karma. You are here adding value for others, you will get value back. And it's not like other places and in crypto, most of my team, which works with me, they get paid a cut of what I'm making. It's not based on a salary, which all my other employees in my Web2 business were. I would keep 99% of the value generated. They would build the app, they would build the solution, but they only make that fixed salary a month. Versus when the app became really successful, I would get all of that value. That's how Web2 used to work. Yeah. They would maybe have a little bit of ESOP, but that's not really the same. But here, I'm talking 30, 40, 50% of what I make goes back to my team, right? And I'm happy to do that, and I make a lot more this way. Right. But I'm happy to do that also because, I'm winning. I realize that. When you look at just purely numbers, you're like, oh, you're paying too much. When you do that over a while, you realize that you're making way more than you would have if this team was not actually with you, right? So and crypto is purely like that. This is an industry where you add value, you get value back very quickly. And I think that's very, very beautiful about this space. And that's why there's, like I said, the smartest people in the space work here in blockchain and Web3.
It's so true. And I guess in the Web2 world, over time, if you added a ton of value, you might get it back. But there were so many frictions in the Web2 space. Here, with these tokens that can literally move like lightning, you'll find that if you're putting out good energy, that sooner or later, they're going to find their way back to your wallet somehow.
Exactly. If you put in a good, so it's also all about collaboration versus competitiveness. Web2 and generally the world, most industries are very competitive. Yeah. They compete with each other. How does Zara want to sell more than H&M? How does this guy want to get more than that? Like, how do I compete? How do I beat? How do a Ferrari sell more than Lamborghini, right? In Web3, everybody like works together. We collaborate. I don't care. Like in hedge funds, they like, I want to get the best deal for myself. In crypto, I share my best deals to the people because they bring me the best deals back. Right. So it's like, it's very collaborative society because everybody wins.
The community wins too,
The community wins too. But when everybody wins, then everybody's more happy. You also want to be in a position where you have people around you all winning. That's how you have more success, when when the people around you all start winning, and then they can enable people around them to also win. And then you're basically in a winning circle. And I think in crypto, because it's so new in a way, it's still barely, and we know it's a disruptive technology. We know it's going to have such an impact because it's finance. Finance runs the world, and we know it's going to change how the financial system is run. I think it's going to, but it's still very early. There's still many people have to be touched by it. So eventually the whole industry will grow. And if you are in that industry adding value one way or the other, you will just grow with the industry as the industry grows. And that's what has happened in Web3 for a lot of people. I know more than 10 CEOs who have started projects who all started as community moderators. They started as basically joining a community in crypto, became a moderator where they would just help other people who would join and how to get involved and what they can do for that community. They realized, hey, this is a problem I can fix. Started building a company, and now they're doing super well. Many of those companies have gone on to create tens of millions of dollars in value, where this founder was basically a community moderator at maybe less than $1,000 a month when he started. So that's the beautiful thing about crypto. When you're there and you find that once you understand Web3, once you understand crypto, you become already this special, 1 to 10% of the world who can actually explain it to the other people. Because a lot of people still don't understand. Yeah. A big downside about crypto is like most people don't do their own research. They depend on other people to tell them what to do. I think that's just maybe human life. Most people just look up to other people. That's why influencers like ourselves have so much influence in this space. Because people look up. I always tell people, do your own research. Do your own research. Don't do what I do because I don't know what I'm doing. I'm learning with you. This industry grows so fast. It changes every day. Even I don't know what I'm doing sometimes. And it's better to do your own research, but most people still don't do that. They don't do that. They'd rather still ask me again or ask somebody else, like, what should I buy or what should I do? Because they don't have that self-confidence in a way. What they don't know is that even the guys at the top are literally building it right now. They're still building the protocol. The development is happening every day. Even the difference is we are nimble. We are okay. We can move fast and break things. It's okay in crypto to break things. It's not a problem. You can fail and you can start again. You fail again, you can start again. And that's what we have seen. So the biggest companies in crypto have failed. FTX, Luna, and look, we are almost back to the all-time high. Probably the next couple of weeks, everybody who ever bought Bitcoin will be in profit. And that's after some of the biggest companies in the world failing.
Yeah.
Right? So that tells you a lot, yeah.
Like, I think we're at like 4% global adoption or 5%, which is like 1998 in internet years. So if you think about what was the internet doing in 98, were people even on the internet in 98? Probably barely. And you're thinking about, okay, that's how much growth we have to go. For people that are new, I think before you said, look, starting off with Bitcoin is like a no-brainer. Get some, maybe understand that Bitcoin. And then from there, you say you can broaden out. Maybe look at a layer one, maybe look at some DeFis. I think you're a fan of exchange tokens because those always seem to survive. Then you talk about gaming and AI. Is that kind of a path that you recommend? Obviously, they should do their own research, but is that a way to kind of look at the ecosystem?
So obviously, tokenization generally is what is happening here, right? And tokenization is happening, and when you mention all these different narratives, AI, RWA, exchanges are great tokens because they have a very strong utility, right? So the more the utility a token has, the more it has potential to grow. And that's what you need to look into. And there's these narratives that crypto will have more impact on a certain industry and less impact on another industry. I like to tell people tokenization is going to change the world, like in a big way, because every business, every ecosystem, is going to become a DAO or going to become tokenized. In a very simple way to explain this is, right now, I ask you, what's the best car to buy? What's your favorite car, Brian?
Oh, like in general?
Yeah.
I actually don't love cars, but I drive.
I don't drive also. I just use the example. I don't drive for 10 years, but I use this example because most everybody loves car.
I drove around in some guy's supercar. It was called like a Jesco. It was some Swedish $10 million supercar. I guess that was kind of cool.
Okay, so yeah, you would probably say a Rolls Royce or a Bugatti, or I think that's a Koenigsegg. I don't even know how to pronounce that name.
Yeah, that's it, Koenigsegg. Yeah, that's it.
So maybe that one, I know the Jesco, but yeah. So you will say that, I would say maybe buy a Rolls Royce because I don't drive, I like to be driven.
Right.
But this is right now in the current world. Let's say Toyota and Honda come up with a token. They already have shares, but they're not accessible. You have to be a accredited investor or only accessible to like less than 10% of the population who can actually access shares of these companies. But most people can't access. But let's say they come out with a token, easily tradable, anybody can have that. And then that token allows you to have some sort of claim in the business. For a business to be really successful, there's 3 stakeholders involved. There's the user of the business, the manager of the business, and the owner of the business. Right now, everybody wants different things. The user wants to get the cheapest product, the best product, the owner wants to make the most money, and the manager wants to basically keep everybody happy and make the business grow. But the incentives are not aligned. With a token, you make the user a part owner and a part manager, and you align the incentives. When let's say Honda and Toyota come with the token, and you get the Honda token, I get the Toyota token, and next time somebody asks us to buy, and if we recommend Toyota, we get a claim of sliver of revenue that Toyota makes, I'm gonna say buy a Toyota. You're gonna say buy a Honda because you're a part owner. Even if one person ends up buying, maybe you get a few pennies in your inbox, right? So that's the difference, you make a part owner. Let's say the next step from that is, which we're already seeing with DAOs. I wrote about this in end of 2022, where I think how it's going to be the year of DAOs, and we're only just seeing now a lot of progress. With what happens is like, as now, if Honda and Toyota make 10 billion, let's say in the year, the board decides where that 10 billion is invested. Maybe that board is not in the right mindset, right? Maybe they don't have the exposure what the people actually want. But as a token holder, you can actually vote. I want you to build a yacht and invest in a new yacht because I like to be on the water. Maybe you say you invest in a new plane because you like to fly. You want to have more efficient flying. So instead of the company deciding, now the user actually has a part say. And I think that makes it a lot more aligned incentive. And that's how people actually feel more part of the business. When you make the user a part owner, a part manager, that's when business has exponential growth. And we're going to see this happen with every business as we know it. As more and more people have wallets, as more and more businesses get tokenized, as we tokenize real estate, or eventually every business, I believe, will also be tokenized. And we will be living in this, you could say, a cult, or some people would like whichever token you have, that's the company you support, that's the company you feel for, and that's the company that you actually help grow. And I think that's going to help businesses also become a lot better in how they do and how they deal with their customers.
Do you think Web3 changes the world fundamentally as human relationships? Because like you said, this whole competition thing has been drilled into us. We've even been told that it's based in Darwinism, which some people disagree with that. Peter Thiel, famous investor, says competition is for losers, which I love that concept. And he says in school, we're taught to compete with each other, which is silly because all of the great people don't compete with each other. They go do their own crazy ideas, whether you're Elon Musk or Steve Jobs or whatever. Web3, it instills cooperation.
Yeah.
Do you think as this gets adopted more and more, the world might actually change to where we actually realize that we cooperate with each other and then we go forward? Do you think it actually can change humanity, not just corporations or protocols?
So remember, Web3 and technology, I like to say, even before Web3, right, I was always deep in technology, and I've been using technology to make all the impact that I've been able to do. And I invest in technology. And when I look at businesses in Web3 and outside of Web3, I like to see how they're using technology to disrupt things. So Web3 is going to give us the tools to basically enable decentralization, enable distributed governance, enable finally giving power back to the common man. Web3 is going to give us these tools. But remember, we saw a lot of friction. The elite don't want to lose that power. Right. They don't want to let that power go. They tried for a long time to say Bitcoin is a scam and Bitcoin is a fraud. Yeah. They just realized they couldn't stop it. And then they're like, okay, let's see how we can collect fees on it. So now they're trying to make the fees. So Web3 is a tool. How we use it and how we implement it, technology and how we use that in our day-to-day life is going to depend on the people the humans that actually make that thing happen. So end of the day, Web3 is definitely a great tool, and it can make humanity a lot better. Technology generally is a great tool. I like to be a lot in Web3 because that's the part in technology, that's the space in technology where I feel very happy working because it's all about giving back, it's all about collaboration. It feels great to be involved in this space. AI is another technology that's going to change the world in a very, very big way. So it's for sure, we know that today technology is changing the world in a very fast way. And maybe AI, maybe blockchain, internet has already changed the world. The culture has shifted so fast in the last 20 years, right? Most people, I like to say this in my speeches and conferences, most people underestimate what technology will do in 10 years and overestimate what's going to happen in 2 years. But technology grows unlike every business grows like 10, 20, 30% a year. pick up any car business, restaurant business, they grow on a normal growth rate, right? There's so much to grow a restaurant, you have to create a new dish. Every time you have to keep creating a dish. But in technology or any other business, if you want to sell a hotel room, you have to clean the hotel room, prepare the hotel. You want to sell clothing, you have to make a new jacket. Technology, you make the app once, or you make the protocol once, 7 billion people can use it tomorrow. So technology grows exponentially, it grows in a J curve. You go like this, you don't see any growth for the first few years. Like that's where you have to be involved, so you get the airdrop. Right. you get it early.
Right.
But then you have this point where people realize, holy shit, this is amazing, and then everybody can start using it. And that's what happened. We saw that happen first with Facebook, then with Instagram, then with Snapchat, and now with OpenAI, ChatGPT. That was 5 days, 1 million users, right? So TikTok
in a month, 100 million users.
So that's what technology is. But there was 10 years of AI being built. Yeah. That didn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
People think AI is going to change the world in the next 2 years. That's been 10 years of work happening.
Or 50 years if you look at it.
50 years if you look at it, yeah. So that's the idea, so right? But now it's reached the J curve. The AI is going to remove so many, it's going to change the way everything happens today, right? 100% is going to change. People have no idea what to expect when it comes to AI. It's going to change the world. I could fire half my staff right now. I've obviously not done that, but I could fire half my staff today and replace them with AI. People who know how to use AI are going to be the supermen of the future, the superwoman of the future, who can just use AI and make things happen. Sam Altman was just saying, there's going to be this company soon, $1 billion company built by one person. And AI, which is not possible before. Yeah. So I think that's the world is definitely changing. There's a huge culture shift. Images, how we used to look at images in the gallery, then you start a photo, and now you scroll, right? Movies, you see proper movies, then you started seeing short videos. Now you just scroll on TikTok. The whole culture and everything, even like relationships, right? There used to be marriage, courtship, then came sexual freedom. Now you just swipe on an app, right? The culture is changing. And it's not a gradual change. It's a change that's been happening over the last many years, like a couple of decades. A metaverse is a big part about crypto. I like to talk about this, right? I invest in over 200 metaverse companies. I own land in over 24 metaverses. But a lot of it's still early. A lot of it's not developed. So it's still early in that opportunity. We thought the metaverse would come around in the last bull run. Facebook changed its name to Meta. Metaverse companies blew up. And Facebook, arguably the top 5 largest company in the world, controls and minds and narratives. A lot of people knows what people are thinking, where people are moving. There's a big reason for Mark Zuckerberg to change his name to Meta, because he can predict the future better than most people can. I like to say the best way to predict the future is to go build it, because the guys building it. So you want to know, you want to listen to them, right? And so I think with what the metaverse, most people think of it as virtual place where, like a movie where you go and live. But I like to think of metaverse as moment in time. Like in AI, you have this idea of singularity, where artificial intelligence is better than human intelligence. That's when you're living in the singularity. I think in the metaverse is this moment in time when our digital life matters more to us than our physical life. Right. And what you see that's been happening over the last few decades is that 100% of our attention used to be in the physical world. That's where all our attention used to be. Then came TVs. They sucked our attention into the digital world. 15-20% of the time people would spend watching TV all day. So that's 80% physical, 20% digital. Then came computers. Massive change. Another 30-40% went to the digital. Now people are spending half the time on the digital world and the other half on the physical world. And now with iPhones, you go to a restaurant, you go to a cinema, people are always on their phone. You're spending 80% of your time in the digital world. Even when you're talking to somebody, you're still on the phone. You're always alert with the Apple Watch, seeing what's happening. You're spending so much of your time into the digital world. And what's going to happen eventually is with the Apple Vision Pro, which just came out, you're basically in the digital world at all times. Yes, you have augmented reality. You have the screen, I can see you, but I'm also seeing the screen. Yeah. But my attention is always in the digital world. This is not a new thing. So I was actually building apps for Google Glass back in 2013. I was one of the first 10 people in the world to make apps for that. Okay. They used to call me a glass hole because nobody liked having a guy with a camera here walking in front of them. It was too early for its time. But it's happened now. Now, because Apple launched it, everybody welcomes it. Everybody wants to buy the Apple Vision Pro. It's a little bit expensive. Probably give it a couple of years before it becomes accessible to everybody, right? But it's happening. And wherever your energy goes, wherever your attention goes, that's where your energy goes. Wherever your attention goes, that's where your energy flows. And wherever your energy flows, That's what you're living in the metaverse. So I think it's going to become much more important for people to live in the metaverse, and people are going to start spending a lot more time. It's a gradual change that's been happening, and technology is making this change possible. So how we live, how we play, how we connect is all going to be disrupted by technology, and it's already being disrupted by technology in a very big way. And Web3 is one of those technology innovations that has happened. It's going to distribute governance, I like to say, and distribute power back. But outside of Web3, all of technology is changing how you do everything, 100%.
And we're already in a metaverse. Sometimes people think, oh, I have to be an avatar in a room, hanging out in some land. No, you're in a metaverse if you're on a Zoom call.
Exactly.
You're in a metaverse. You're already in a metaverse if you're interacting digitally with another human. That's the idea.
Metaverse. That's what it is. If you care, like, how do people used to play? People used to play basketball and football. Now they play Fortnite. More people play Fortnite than basketball and football combined, right? That just tells you more kids play Fortnite. So that's living in the metaverse. How do people work? You used to go to a boardroom. Now you do everything on Zoom. That's living in the metaverse. How do people play, work, enjoy? Like, identity. What matters more to you? Your life on Instagram, how you look on Instagram, or how you look in your life. You could be in your pajamas on your bed, but you would care much more how my photo that I'm posting looks.
And that depends on your age to a certain extent. So my dad, who's 81, he doesn't have a digital identity.
Exactly.
My sons are 6 and 7 years old. Their digital identity is everything. And a teenage girl in high school, her digital identity could be the most important thing.
It's more important to them than their real life.
Yeah.
They don't care if they have pimples in real life and it affects their health. They care they don't have pimples in the photo. So that's much more important, right? And that tells you at that point, you are already living in the metaverse. You can say whatever you want, but when your digital life matters more to you, you are already living in the metaverse. It's only a matter of time when the avatar is going to be there. It's going to represent you. That's probably the future. And I'm very grateful and I'm very blessed, and I'm always grateful for the life I have had today because of the opportunities and places I've had. I can live my real life. I can go out every night to the bar. I can buy drinks. I can enjoy. I can fly where I want to go. I can travel. I come from a place like India, where 600 million people. That's as many people in Europe, double the people in US. They don't have the same opportunities. They make $500 a month. And then you look at Africa, it's a similar situation, right? For these people, when they're making only that few $100s a month, they don't have the same opportunities that I do or that we do. For them, the metaverse is a blessing. A great example is, for example, Romero Brito is the most licensed artist in the history of the world. He's got the most licenses on art with most brands. He has the largest art gallery in the world, the physical art gallery in Miami. If you want to go to his physical art gallery, you got to be his private art collector. His art is starting, the cheapest one is like tens of thousands of dollars. So you can't really go to his gallery unless you are already very influential or very wealthy. So, how can the rest of the world, the 99% of the world, enjoy that gallery experience and see that Romero, who's the most licensed artist in the history of the world, has created all this amazing art all this time? That's why I'm working with him to create his Metaverse gallery. So now for like $1 or just doing some quest, some airdrop and running after maybe sharing his photos or art, you can join his Metaverse gallery, see all the people and amazing people that he's worked with, what amazing creations he has made, amazing brands, and you can see that guy's history and enjoy. You're not going to be the same experience as in the real gallery, but as close as you can get to it without spending the tens of thousands of dollars that you would need to go to the real gallery.
Right.
So I think that's very exciting. So I think Metaverse is gonna and it's gonna change the way for a huge part of the world. More than 3 billion people, which is a big part of the world, is going to change the world and how they live and how they play. And I think it's going to be, why do you think TikTok grew the fastest in India? It grew the fastest in India because 600 million people in India got access to the internet for the first time when India's billionaire Mukesh Ambani gave internet to free to all these people with Jio. These people had no internet before. And now what did they have? They had internet so all their time, TikTok, watching, entertaining themselves. They can't go to the bar. They can't go to their restaurant. They can't go every night to spend money.
They can't afford it.
They can't afford it.
Right.
They got to feed their family in that $500 or so dollars. Maybe it's $300, maybe it's $800. That number is irrelevant. The point is, you just support a family, and that's all you have. You can't really go out and enjoy your real life like you see on Instagram a lot of people doing. So for them, but you could do that in the metaverse. You could spend that time online, and that's what is really happening. And that's changing the way the world in a very, very big way.
And soon they could now work in the metaverse. They could get those same airdrops.
That's what is happening. So we saw the last bull market, the big adoption. I wrote about this on articles on Cointelegraph and Forbes, where I said the last bull market will come because of GameFi. There was going to be a big adoption of people going to play games and earn tokens. And that's exactly what happened in Philippines and Vietnam, where 5-year-old children and 50-year-old grandmas started playing these games, not because they enjoyed it, but because they were able to earn this money. Because somebody in Europe or in the US, their mother's credit card is already attached to the iPad. They're going to spend $10 to just upgrade the level quickly. But in Philippines, if you can make $10 a day, you're doing great. If you can do that while playing a game, sitting on your couch, not having to do labor or hard, intensive work which you're not passionate about, you're going to do that. You're not going to go do that labor job. And if you can do a little bit better, it's because there's some sort of skill involved. If you can make $20, $30 a day, hallelujah. You're doing a lot better than you were doing your normal labor job. You're driving a taxi or being a waiter. So at that point, Web3 has brought that adoption in, right? And I think that's what is really, that's again, when you bring tokenization into these things, it becomes really, really exciting. So we already live in the metaverse. Now with Web3 being attached to it, people are trying to make an economy out of it. Because what's going to happen eventually is, right, what's happening in the real world also, right? Wherever attention goes and that asset becomes more valuable. Why is property in London or in New York or in Paris worth way more than in some part of Africa or some part of Vietnam or some part of India? Because this is where people want to be. This is where more people want to come. And the prices go up. This is demand and supply. I think the metaverse will become like, they're going to have a lot of different metaverses, but the ones that people actually want to spend time in, where the people actually want to give their attention, the asset prices of those metaverses will go up. But in this time, it's open. You can still have the chance to invest in London and Manhattan 200 years ago, because we are part of the change. This current generation that we have, we are literally seeing this change take place from going to a world where 100% attention was in the physical world, and now 100% attention in the digital world. This is happening in our generation. This was not happening before us. So you have this chance now to really maybe buy property in London and New York 200 years ago, and that's the kind of opportunity that a lot of people have today. And because we are still building this next generation. We had this, I do not know the word, the Homo sapiens, and all this evolution of mankind, of human. Now with Neuralink, there's chips planted into people. They successfully had that already done, where they already had a chip and the person is happy to have that chip. Like I said, technology grows exponentially, not linearly. So it's not going to be 100 years before everybody will chip. Probably a few years where everybody will have chips that will make them smarter, and people are going to enjoy doing this. Instead of having a phone, this will be your phone, or the phone is in your eye. So that progress is coming. And when that progress happens, you start spending more and more time in the metaverse. The metaverses that actually contain the attention are going to be worth a lot more than the land in that metaverse is going to be worth a lot more than the land in New York or Paris.
That's fascinating, man. Talk to me about art, because you are a huge art collector. You also bought a ton of NFTs in the past, and I'd love to hear a list of your collections. Obviously, the NFT market was super bullish, and it was a kind of a bubble. It crashed. But then last year, we saw the ordinals market explode in a crazy way, which is basically kind of an NFT on the Bitcoin chain. What do you see is the future of NFTs, of art? And just tell me, in your opinion, what is art and what is digital art? Because at the end of the day, we are humans. We want to connect somehow, and art is a way for us to connect. And digital art is also maybe the next evolution of that.
So there's a couple questions in there that I can answer in different ways. Like, what is NFTs? And then what is art and what is digital art? So NFTs, right now, most people think of NFTs as digital art. That's not true. NFTs is a technology. NFT is a non-fungible token. Right. When you have one Bitcoin, I have one Bitcoin, we put it in a bowl, and then we take it out together, it's still the same Bitcoin, right? It doesn't make a difference. Your Bitcoin is not better than my Bitcoin. NFT is basically a non-fungible token where I have something different attached to my token, you have something different attached. It's non-fungible, and so that's why they have different values. Maybe I have a photo of a pig with a green hat, you have a photo of a pig with a yellow cap, and that's why they have different values, because that speaks to different people. So that's the NFT. But NFTs is basically, it can also be used as a technology. I think in the very close future, our driving license, our passport, our identity documents, land records, car records, everything will become an NFT. And instead of storing, I don't like to store any of my, like my watch paper documents is sitting in my house in Tulum. My ownership property from property I own in Zanzibar is sitting in my house in India. Like, it's all a mess, right? I have all these assets that are around the world, and ownership of those assets are basically pieces of paper that are sitting in different parts of the world. And like, to compile them is also a problem. Let's say I'm sitting in India talking to dealer, I'm like, all right, this watch is yours. Oh, but I have to go to Tulum to pick up that paper and send it to you. So that's the problem, right? So NFTs are basically that ownership on chain. So it becomes a digital asset. So it is in your wallet, and you can always prove ownership because you can't lie. The blockchain never lies, right? That's the best part. So that's what NFTs, I think, is going to be the real big.
To continue watching the rest of the episode for free, visit our website londonreal.tv or click the link in the description below.
So Jim Rickards has just recorded a video that's not available to anyone in the public, and he's going to be talking about how this upcoming recession is going to be fast, it's going to be bloody, it's going to be nasty. But at the same time, he's going to show you how you can position yourself to profit from all of this chaos. Now, we've made this video only available to our viewers. Go to londonreal.tv/Jim, watch that immediately. I can't say enough good things about Jim Rickards. He understands the global economic system better than any guest I've ever had on London Real. His predictions are almost uncannily true, and you can learn how to profit from his vision, from his expertise, and his understanding of economics. So go to londonreal.tv/Jim or click the link below. It's an excellent, excellent look on what's going to happen in the future and how you can position yourself to profit from that. Jim is one of the best in the business, one of my favorite guests on London Real, and he's very, very good at predicting the future and showing us all to profit from it. So click the link, and I hope you enjoy.
Hey, it's Brian Rose, founder of the DeFi Academy. I've told you my 4-week crypto bootcamp is amazing, but don't take my word for it. This is what my students are saying.
The DeFi Academy was an amazing experience for me. It took me totally out of my comfort zone.
In this course, I was challenged, I was held accountable, and pushed to do things that honestly weren't always easy.
It's been phenomenal, and I can't believe we're already up on our 4 weeks. It has flown by.
Going through this DeFi accelerator by far was one of the best courses I've taken.
You do this course, you really get into the nitty-gritty of the activities that will make you comfortable with decentralized finance.
Thank you so much to Brian and everyone at London Real and the DeFi Academy for even putting together an amazing course like this.
Anybody else that wants to do it, please sign up. It is well worth the money.